John Finley here from Lemonade LXP, and I'm really pleased to have Ali Munoz joining from Rock Valley Credit Union, and she is going to explain how Rock Valley is helping members go digital. So I'm super excited about this. And before we get started, just if you have any questions, please dump them in the chat or the Q&A, either one. I'll try to remember to check them both and certainly answer any questions that you may have when we're done the chat. So let's get started. So in terms of what we're going to cover today, first, I just want to talk a little bit about why digital member experience is important, show you how some other FIs are doing it, and then show you how Rock Valley is doing it. And Ali's going to explain how it's going for so far. She'll walk us through the entire Rock Valley experience. So let's get started on why it matters. So in looking at some of the trends in banking, what we see is that mega banks are overwhelmingly winning new account openings. And you can see regional banks are next, and then credit unions, community banks. If that trend continues for too long, it could be an existential issue for smaller FIs. So I think seeing that trend lets us know that we have to do as much as we can to appeal to potential customers and members. So then we also look at the trend. You see 60% of people are using the branch less frequently, which I think we've all experienced, especially during COVID. And we dig down a little further and we look at what tools members are using to optimize the performance of their financial life. You see that overwhelmingly across all generations, they're favoring digital banking tools more so than their account manager or other employees of the primary bank. So there's a lot of move towards digital that was imposed by COVID. And then when we look at the types of things that they're doing, so if they want information, they're willing to come into branch. But when it's transactional, transfer funds, pay bills, update account information, that type of stuff, they're doing it overwhelmingly using digital channels. So before the pandemic, the FIs that we were talking to was all about how can we drive adoption? Well, COVID kind of drove adoption, but it not only drove adoption, it drove people home, which changed not just banking, but it changed the employment situation as well. And so a quick Google search of staffing problems for credit unions or banks or FIs yields a ton of articles about the staffing problems that FIs are experiencing. Wall Street Journal here talking about 40% of eligible workers opting out of the workforce. And I think in banking, it was particularly pronounced for a few reasons. This stat is about 8 months old, but at the time, 75% of FIs were letting more than half their staff work from home. And it's interesting, one FI that I was talking to a couple of months ago, they had to shift hundreds of tellers, frontline branch employees, to contact centers. And you can imagine that experience. You're used to being a teller. You're used to talking to people face to face and helping them solve problems. Suddenly, you're sent home and you're now a contact center rep. You don't have the shoulder to shoulder colleague support that you enjoyed at the office. And overwhelmingly, you don't have necessarily the tools that you need. And this financial brand report talked about how communication tools were cited as the top solution people needed to make their jobs easier. And then 33% saying IT tools were a problem. So you've got this situation where banking's changed. The employment landscape has changed. How people are doing their jobs and how they're even thinking about their jobs has changed. But we know that humans are important for digital member experience, and we know that our staff needs support. So that's why I think it matters, because it's about keeping market share, it's about earning new account openings, and it's about keeping our staff. Let's take a quick look at how some other FIs are doing it. So I just went and did some research on websites of other banks and credit unions to see how they're doing it. You see, I redacted the name because I'm not really here to bash anybody. I just want to talk about some of the ways it's being done. So this is a web page off an FI website, and it's meant to support Zelle. Well, first of all, it doesn't have any visuals. So as a user or a customer or a member, I can't connect this to the experience I'm having in the mobile app or online banking because there's nothing visually to connect it. So it makes it really hard for me to read the screen and apply it to what I'm actually seeing. So I don't think this is a great solution. More importantly, I don't think it sends a great message about this financial institution's commitment to digital. I know when a new member is considering joining your credit union, they're not just considering a long-term relationship with your credit union, they're considering a long-term relationship with your digital tools, digital banking tools. And so if this is the extent to which the FI shows their willingness to support it, I don't know how comfortable that's going to make a prospective new member because it doesn't show the best commitment to digital. So some have ramped it up a little bit. So this one's better because you've got screenshots, but you still kind of have to walk through it step by step in a text-based way, and it's not interactive. So it reminds me of VCR manuals. I know I'm dating myself here, but back in the old days, when you used to get a VCR, you get a new VCR, you bring it home. And even though reading this might speed up your ability to use all the VCR's features, you never read it. You just started hitting buttons in the hopes that you'd figure it out. It's because people don't really want to read this stuff. It's a little bit dense. So then some folks have leveled it up even further, and they've built videos. And the challenge with videos is they're first of all, they're not interactive, but the more important thing is when your tech changes, you got to change all your videos, and that's expensive. It's time consuming, and your videos are always going to lag behind your tech updates because they take so long to build. So I think videos where they really fit is they fit well for marketing. So when you just want to talk about the value propositions of your digital banking capabilities, they're not going to change so much when you update your tech. It's still more convenient. It's still easier. You don't have to go anywhere. Like all those basic value propositions aren't going to change. So you don't have to change your videos. But if you're trying to support people and help them use the tech, the videos are going to have to change frequently, and that's kind of expensive. So now we get to the point where we talk about what Rock Valley's doing. So I'm just going to quickly go out of here and just for context, show you their system. So this is Rock Valley's digital university, and it's branded, searchable, WCAG compliant tool where you can go in as a member, and I'm looking for ways to help me with bill pay. I can go search, excuse me, I just need to refresh. So I can go search and find any walkthroughs that help me with bill pay. And Ali has actually overseen this and built out these demos. And you can see they've even got Spanish ones for their Spanish members. So this is a tool that walks through their technology. So if I'm trying to figure out how to do a transaction, this is going to actually guide me through. It's interactive, and it walks me through all of the steps I need to take to complete my transaction. And when I'm done, I have the option to take that transaction again. So that's what Rock Valley's doing. So I'm gonna kind of turn this over to Ali now and ask a few questions just as a prompt to discuss what they've been up to. So what prompted you to implement this, and what business challenge were you trying to solve, Ali?
Yeah, at the time when we had started exploring options as far as tutorials go, actually my CEO, Darlene Keller, had stumbled upon the company through a webinar similar to this. And we had kind of always in the back of our mind had, thought to transition more digitally. And we thought this was the perfect opportunity, unfortunately, along with COVID, but it was kind of a right place, right time situation for us to really start pushing our digital products and services for our members. So it worked out for the best for us.
Right. And what made you choose Lemonade? What was it that stood out for you?
It was really the tutorials for us. We feel that visuals are very, very important, especially to our members. One thing is reading it, and another thing is actually seeing and interacting with it. And with those tutorials, we've seen that members can better adapt to remote deposit, for example. They can do the step-by-steps and really learn how to do it without risking their own accounts, because who wants to risk depositing something incorrectly into their account? So it's a real nice hands-on experience.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because in customer surveys, we've heard that that's often the feedback you get is that there's a concern with trying new technology.
Right.
Nobody wants to send money to the wrong person
Right.
or because, so having a risk-free environment makes a lot of sense. Tell us about your implementation experience. How'd that go?
Oh, it was a breeze. It really felt like it took a week. I might be over exaggerating here, but It was a really simple and easy process. Everybody watched through it with us literally seamlessly. And then we got hopped on board and started with the tutorials, and we really enjoy it. So
How many folks at Rock Valley were involved in that?
I would say it was our president and CEO, Darlene, myself, and another teaching and engagement person at the time. And this would have been about 2 years ago. From that, we're kind of building and expanding our digital U that we have currently.
Right. And is that just you, or do you still have a person with you?
Yeah, actually, we do have another marketing person on our team, but usually what it is I create the tutorials myself, put it all together, and I get some feedback from the tellers as well, and our really direct frontline staff, because they're the people that are engaging and having those one-on-one conversations with our members daily, as opposed to myself when I'm doing graphic design and other communication pieces and stuff like that. So their input is very, very important to me, because what I see isn't necessarily what they see sometimes as well.
Oh, that's really interesting. Actually, I hadn't heard of that before, but it actually makes sense that you would solicit feedback from Frontline, who are actually the ones in sort of out there dealing with members. So that's really interesting.
Mhm.
So how can you walk us through the sort of use cases? Is it just for members, or do staff use the tool as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I have heard some staff members, especially our contact center, that have been on the phone, for example, with a member that is working on remote deposit. We'll use remote deposit as an example, and they're in a certain step. And with Digital U that we have, since we have that tutorial out already, they can go to the specific step that the member is on, so that way they don't have to walk through that process again, and make that time shorter for our contact center rep and the member, so they can continue with their transaction.
Right, that's great. We have some customers have actually nested it into their chat bot and interactive voice response. So there's a lot of different ways that you can leverage it, but it's good to hear that contact center reps are using it, because that was one of the first use cases of the
Yeah,
tool.
and actually, it's funny you mentioned the chat too. We do have those embedded in our chat feature that we just installed. I believe it was about a year ago that we
Oh,
started filling in those prompts and all of that. So we have added that as well, which is very, very helpful, especially with a member that's on their phone or on a laptop or desktop device as well, so they can just click directly to the link and get started.
yeah, and the cool thing about that is what we've heard is, so what it can do is, for sometimes you do a transaction only once a month, so you get a walkthrough, and then next month when you come back, you can't quite remember how to do it.
Right.
Well, now you have a link that you
Mhm.
can use. So you don't have to call the contact center again, which I think does two things: improves the member experience, because people don't really want to call the contact center if they can avoid it, but also it de-stresses things for that frontline staff, because you're not getting as many calls. And when you do get the calls, you've got a tool to get on the same page quickly. So I think that's key, the key part of that employee retention, because if you're on the front line and every day is stressful because you don't have the tools, you're probably going to be more inclined to look for a new job.
Absolutely.
Um, Tell me about your administration and authoring experience, since you're sort of championing the whole thing and the person on point. How's that been?
Oh, I think it's been very smooth. I think the initial implementation really helps me understand what is expected when you make a tutorial, or the stuff of that sort. From there, it's a really, really smooth process. I mean, you can get really fancy with it and do all these big graphics and stuff, but I feel like at the same time, people just want the information that they want. They want to perform the transaction and go on with their day. A lot of people are really busy, and we want to keep things simple and to the point, so that way they can make it in a snap and continue hanging out with their kids or working and doing stuff like that. So
Yeah, it makes sense. So how do you guys promote it, or make both staff and members aware of your digital U?
yeah, I think initially when we first implemented it, it was more about building the library, because we didn't necessarily want to promote something that had one tutorial, for example. So I think the first couple months and the first year ago that we had was really building that library so that it's really solid and has a lot of content. And then from there, it's including it in our e-blasts and our email communications. Hey, you have this feature. If you want to start utilizing those digital services, it's something for you to use, and you can do it in a snap. We love seeing our members in the lobbies during regular business hours, but if somebody's working late hours, we understand, and we want to make sure that they're able to complete their transactions at home. So it's a really great tool that we have really tried to push out, especially lately, as far as, putting it on social media, informing our members of those products and services that they do have access to.
Well, you put it on social media too.
Yeah, we try and push it as much as possible. It's a great feature for people to really learn and educate themselves on those kinds of things. So
Well, that's actually cool. I haven't heard of an FI doing that yet. I've heard a lot of like um, we have a couple of customers who use it for new member onboarding. So
yes.
you got a new member coming and you send them some links to so that they can learn in a risk-free environment where they don't have that stress. Are you guys doing that too?
Yeah, we have a financial education and assistance page on our website. And within there, we provide resources for financial wellness and our digital U tutorials as well. So that way we can embed that link into our e-blast and things of that sort.
Is that all on you too?
No, I have a great partner that has taken off a lot of the stress. She just got hired, I believe about a year ago, and she's been a blessing in disguise. So thankfully we cut it down the middle now, but it's fun to put those things together. It's something that I really enjoy. So
That's great. So what are the plans for it moving forward? What do you envision over the next little while?
yeah, I feel like really growing that platform for us in general, putting extra tutorials out there for the frequently used digital services that people tend to gravitate towards more would be definitely a focus of mine moving forward as far as the remainder of 2022. Really pushing it out. Education is really, really big for us. We want our members to know that we do have those accounts and we have our checking accounts and our savings accounts and things of that sort, but we're also very, very concerned about your financial education. Finances are very important. And it's, sometimes people really have an opinion on financial education in schools, and a lot of people don't really have access to that kind of thing. And as a credit union, we really want to focus on we're your friend, we're your partner, we're here to support you and tag along, on your financial journey. So we really want to push that as well moving forward.
Or something that made me think of that's kind of cool. So Lemonade has another side to it, which is a learning experience platform specifically for frontline staff to teach them your digital stuff. And a big part of what is in there is game-based learning. So it morphs learning into little micro learning games that are kind of fun to play. And it'll be near the end of Q2. The first Lemonade game will be externalizable, if that's even a word. So if you author a game, you'll be able to put it on your digital academy instead of just having it in Lemonade, and it'll be there so that a member doesn't have to create an account. Like they don't have to authenticate, they can just come and play the game. So we did that because we are hearing from a lot of our customers that financial education is a big deal, and in some cases it's a mandated thing. But also many FIs just want to be able to support their customers and members through sort of financial wellness and financial literacy and that sort of stuff. So actually that you'll have that feature in the next little while. So that's kind of cool.
Fantastic.
Good to know that you guys want to use it for that. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you'd like to add about your experience or about the tool?
I think it's just been a great experience in general. It's a great tool that our members and internal staff can really utilize as well. And it's really helped us grow as a credit union and really push that digital focus that we have. So thank you to you guys for partnering along with us and helping us grow in digitally. So,
well, thank you. You know what? It's for us, it's a real pleasure to hear stories about how customers are using it and how it's making a difference. So thank you very much for being a client and being willing to tell your story.
Yeah.
Folks, I'm going to open it up for any questions that people may have. I've opened the chat. So if you have any questions, I'll also open Q&A in case there are any questions you've got. But feel free to ask Ali or ask me if you got ones for me.
Shoot away.
So far, no questions. Anybody got anything?
Don't be shy. We're open.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a question. Where do you see, this is from Jenna, and she says, where do you see this being used in regards to lending experiences?
That's a good question. I think maybe if somebody gets stuck in a certain part of a a loan application, that could be something that we even explore. I know we're really trying to really sharpen our skills as far as our application processes and onboarding processes go. So I think it could be really helpful if somebody were to, put together a tutorial on what your loan application process looks like. I think that would probably be a really helpful tool.
Are loan applications, do you still take them in paper or digitally or both?
It's really, 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 really digital.
Okay.
It's really focused online, and if somebody has a question, we're more than happy to answer the phone and, help them at whatever step they're at. So then, you can go down, if you have that tutorial, to be in that specific step. A contact center representative, or even a lending specialist, can pick up the phone and figure out what spot they're at to help.
Yeah, I found that one of the tricky things with those types of applications is you get partway through them, and then there's a question you're not really quite certain about, and it's frustrating to not have an answer right then and there. So that's a great question, Jenna, and something that I haven't seen a lot of our customers doing yet, but I imagine it's inevitable as more and more loan application stuff moves online.
Very
So
true.
thanks for the question. Any other questions, folks? Well, it looks like that might be just about it. Well, Ali, thank you so much for taking the time to walk everybody through your experience. I really genuinely appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks to everybody who joined. Have a great day.